You set the bag down on the counter and check the price tag again, hoping it went down since last spring. It didn't. That little blue box of plant food costs more every year, and somehow your tomatoes never quite look the way the picture promised. Here is the part the fertilizer aisle would rather you never work out. The company selling you that bag makes its money the same way every single season. You come back, you pay again, you carry another one to the car. But there is a free brew you can make from scraps you already throw away, and it feeds your plants and pushes out blooms just as well. This is how you stop buying the bag. Let me be straight with you about what this is and what it isn't, because you deserve that before you go pulling leaves off a plant. This is one homemade liquid feed. You brew it in a bucket, you dilute it, you pour it around the roots of your hungry plants, and within a couple of weeks of steady feeding, you start to see the difference. Greener leaves, more flowers setting, fruit filling out. It costs you close to nothing because the main ingredient is a plant you grow yourself once and harvest from for years. I am not going to tell you it beats the store bag on some lab chart, because that would be a lie, and this audience does not need lies. I am going to tell you it is good enough to replace that bag for feeding your plants and supporting your blooms at near zero cost out of your own backyard. So let me walk you through the whole thing, start to finish. Here is the first thing to understand, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That bag of plant food is designed to run out. That is the whole business. You buy it, you use it, it empties, and the only way to feed your plants next month is to go back and buy another one. Nothing wrong with a company making a living. But it does mean the people who make your plant food have zero reason to ever tell you how to make your own. Why would they hand you the key to walking out of their store for good? So the knowledge just quietly sits there, out of the conversation, while you keep carrying bags to the car. It was never a secret exactly. It was just never going to show up on the label. Now let me tell you about the plant that does the heavy lifting. It's called comfrey. If you have never heard of it, you are not alone, and that is part of why it works so well and costs so little. Comfrey is a big, leafy, hardy perennial with fuzzy leaves and little bell-shaped purple flowers, and it grows like it has somewhere to be. You plant it once and it comes back every year, bigger, asking for almost nothing. Here is the part that matters for your plants. Comfrey grows a taproot that drives deep into the ground. According to Gardener's Path, that root can reach down as far as 10 feet, far below where your vegetables and your grass can reach. Think of it like a deep well in your yard. Your topsoil, the top few inches where your tomatoes live, gets tired and washed out over a season. All the minerals leach down past the roots or get used up. But comfrey's taproot goes down where those minerals settled, pulls them back up, and packs them into its leaves. So when you cut comfrey leaves, you are not just cutting a plant. You are holding a fistful of minerals that came from deep in the earth, delivered right to the surface, for free. And the mineral it is richest in is the one your flowering and fruiting plants crave most. Potassium. That is the nutrient that helps a plant set flowers, fill out fruit, and stand up strong. According to Gardener's Path, dried comfrey leaves run somewhere around 1.8 for nitrogen, half a point for phosphorus, and above 5 for potassium, which is a serious amount of the exact thing your tomatoes and peppers and roses are hungry for. That same source points out comfrey is especially rich in potassium, which is why it makes such a fine feed for flowers and fruit. I will be honest with you. Some experienced gardeners argue about exactly how much comfrey pulls up and how, and the deep well idea is more garden wisdom than settled laboratory science. But the leaves themselves test high in potassium, and that part is not in dispute. That is what ends up in your bucket. So think about what has really been going on. Your plants were probably not sick. They were hungry. A tomato that stays pale and stingy with its fruit is usually a tomato that ran out of food. The store sells you a bag to fix that. Comfrey grows the food for you, in your own yard, out of minerals that were already down there. You are just moving them from deep in the ground into a form your plants can drink. That is the whole trick. All right. Here is the recipe, and I am going to give you the exact amounts, because I know you are the kind of person who writes these down, and you should. There are 2 ways to make comfrey feed, and I will give you both so you can pick. The first way is the simple steeped tea, and it is the one to start with. Take a bucket. A 5-gallon bucket is perfect. Cut a good armful of comfrey leaves, roughly enough to loosely fill the bucket about halfway, and chop them up a bit, stems and all, so they break down faster. Then fill the bucket the rest of the way with water. Rainwater is lovely if you have it, but tap water is fine. Put something heavy on top of the leaves to hold them under. A brick or a plate works, and set a loose lid over the whole thing. Now you wait. BBC Gardener's World recommends letting it steep for around 3 to 6 weeks, and the longer it goes, the stronger and darker it gets. In a warm spot, it works faster. You will know it is ready when the leaves have mostly broken down into a dark, murky liquid. Now the honest warning, because I would rather you hear it from me. This stuff stinks. Comfrey tea, when it is done, smells genuinely awful, like something died in a pond. That is normal, that is the leaves breaking down, and it means it is working. Keep the bucket somewhere away from the back door and your neighbors. Put a lid on it, and just accept that the smell is the price of free plant food. It washes off your hands with soap, and the smell does not carry once it is diluted and in the soil. There is a second way to make it that skips most of the smell, and once you have done this a season or two, you may prefer it. Instead of drowning the leaves in water, you pack a container tight with just chopped comfrey leaves, no water at all, weigh them down, and let them rot down on their own. Over a few weeks, they collapse into a thick, dark syrup that drips out the bottom, and that concentrated goo is pure comfrey feed. Rural Sprout describes this concentrated method, and the beauty of it is far less stink and a stronger brew. The catch is, you need a container you can drain from the bottom, so it is a little more setup. Start with the simple bucket tea. Graduate to the concentrate when you are hooked. Either way, you end up with a dark liquid that is far too strong to pour straight onto a plant. This is the step people skip, and it is the step that matters most, so listen close. You must dilute it. Comfrey feed goes on watered down, never full strength on the roots. For the steep bucket tea, mix roughly 1 part comfrey liquid to 10 parts water. BBC Gardener's World suggests diluting until it looks about the color of weak tea, and that is a good eye to trust. If you made the thick concentrate instead, it is far stronger, so dilute that one much harder, closer to 1 part concentrate to 15 or even 20 parts water. When in doubt, go weaker. A feed that is too weak just means you feed a little more often. A feed that is too strong can burn your plant, and nobody wants to trade a store bag for a scorched tomato. Here is how and when to use it. Once it is diluted down to that weak tea color, you pour it around the base of the plant, onto the soil, the same way you would water. You are feeding the roots. Do this every week or two through the growing season, especially once your plants start flowering and setting fruit, because that is when they are hungriest for potassium. And that is exactly what comfrey brings. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, beans, roses, anything you want to bloom and fruit, they all love this feed right when the flowers start showing up. Water your plants normally with plain water first, if the soil is bone dry, then give them the diluted feed, so the roots drink it in instead of it running straight through. If this is the kind of grow-it-yourself, keep your money gardening you want more of, this channel is full of it, so stick around. Now, a few safe use notes, because you asked good questions in your head just now, and I want to answer them. Do not pour at full strength, we covered that. Always dilute. Go gentle on young seedlings and anything freshly transplanted, because tender new plants can take offense at a rich feed, so give them a much weaker mix or wait until they are established. Wash your hands after you handle it, both because of the smell and just good sense. And keep the raw concentrate out of reach of curious kids and pets, same as you would any garden product. This is natural, but natural does not mean you drink it. Treat it with the same respect you would give the blue box, and you will be fine. Now, a fair question. Where do you get the comfrey in the first place? This is the one small piece of setup, and it is a one-time thing. You buy a single comfrey plant or a couple of root cuttings once, usually for about the price of a fancy coffee, and you plant it in a corner of the yard or a big deep pot where it can stay. Give it a spot it can keep, because that deep taproot means comfrey does not love being moved once it settles in. It is tough as old boots and grows happily across most of the country, comfortable through the cold winters of the northern states and the long summers down south alike. It dies back in winter and comes roaring back every spring on its own, and if your ground freezes hard, it just naps and returns. If you garden on a balcony or a patio, grow it in the biggest, deepest pot you have, feed that pot a little compost now and then, and it will still hand you leaves. One plant bought one time becomes a lifetime supply of free plant food. And here is the lovely part. The more you cut it for feed, the harder it grows back, so harvesting comfrey does not wear it out. It thanks you for the haircut. You can take 3 or 4 big cuttings off an established plant across a single season, which is plenty to keep a bucket going all summer long. Comfrey is the workhorse, but it is not the only free brew in your yard, and a couple of others make fine supporting players when your comfrey patch is still getting established, or you just want more feed. Think of these as the backup singers. The first is grass clipping tea, and you are quite possibly bagging up the ingredient every weekend. Fresh grass clippings are high in nitrogen, which is the nutrient that drives green leafy growth, the opposite end of the scale from comfrey's potassium. So where comfrey feeds your flowers, grass tea feeds your leaves, which makes them a lovely pair. To make it, fill a bucket about 2/3 full of fresh clippings, top it up with water, and let it steep just 3 or 4 days, giving it a stir when you walk past. The Old Farmer's Almanac notes that grass clippings carry a good dose of nitrogen and potassium both. This one brews fast, but it also goes off fast, so use it within a day or 2 of straining it, and dilute it down, roughly 1 part tea to 10 parts water for grown plants. And just so you know, this one stinks too if you let it sit too long, so brew small and use it fresh. The second backup is plain compost tea, and if you keep a compost pile or bin, you already have the makings. You simply scoop some finished compost into a bucket, cover it with water, and let it steep for a few days to a couple of weeks, stirring now and then. The Old Farmer's Almanac describes this as one of the easiest homemade feeds there is. What you get is a gentle, all-around feed that carries a little of everything, plus the good soil life from the compost. Strain it, water it down until it looks like weak tea, and pour it around your plants. It is milder than comfrey, so it is a friendly choice for those seedlings and delicate plants that would find full comfrey feed too rich. So now you have a little kitchen of free feeds. Comfrey as the main course for flowers and fruit. Grass tea for a shot of leafy green growth. Compost tea for a gentle all-rounder. Not one of them cost you $1, and all of them come from things you are already growing, mowing, or tossing. You might be sitting there wondering why, if this works so well, it is not on every shelf and every gardening show. And the answer is the same one we started with. There is no bag to sell at the end of it. A company cannot bottle up your backyard comfrey patch and charge you for it every spring. The whole appeal, from their side of the counter, is that you keep coming back. A plant you grow once and harvest from for years is the exact opposite of a good product. It is a good deal for you and a poor deal for them, and that is precisely why it stays quiet. Your great-grandmother very likely fed her garden this way, out of buckets that smelled like the devil, and her tomatoes did just fine. Somewhere along the way, the bag replaced the bucket, and the bucket got forgotten. All you are doing is remembering it. Let me leave you with the one idea that ties this whole thing together, because if you take nothing else, take this. Your plants were hungry, not sick. A tired, pale, stingy plant is usually not fighting a disease. It is just waiting to be fed. And you can feed it for free, from a plant you grow yourself and from scraps you already throw away. You do not need the bag. You never really did. Think about what that actually gives you. A feed that never runs out, because the comfrey grows back thicker every year. A feed that never raises its price, because it does not have one. A feed that sits in a bucket in the corner of your yard, waiting while the fertilizer aisle keeps nudging its prices up and hoping you do not notice. Once you have a comfrey patch established and a bucket going, you are simply out of that loop for good. The plants get fed, the flowers come, the fruit fills out, and your money stays in your pocket where it belongs. And there is a quiet kind of satisfaction in it that I did not expect the first time. You walk out on a warm evening, cut an armful of leaves off a plant that grew itself, and by the time the light fades you have next month's plant food working away in a bucket. No receipt, no drive, no little blue box. Just you, a pair of scissors, and a garden that feeds itself. If that is the kind of gardening you want more of, the Plant-On's Feed Forever kind, you will feel right at home here on the channel, so stick around and go brew yourself a bucket.